The cargo ship touched down on orbital station Nexus 7 with a gentle thud. Minho stretched his arms above his head and yawned. It had been a long flight from Earth, nearly 3 weeks through the jump gates. His small ship carried medical supplies and farming equipment for the outer colonies. Nothing exciting, but it paid well enough. He grabbed his jacket and headed down the ramp. The station buzzed with life. Aliens of every shape and size moved through the docking bay. Some had forearms, others floated in liquid-filled suits. Minho had seen it all by now. After 5 years hauling cargo across the galaxy, very little surprised him anymore. The marketplace stretched out before him like a metal canyon. Shops lined both sides of the main corridor, selling everything from weapons to exotic foods. Holographic signs flashed in dozens of languages. The air smelled like spices and engine oil. Minho liked this place. It felt alive in a way that most stations did not. He needed to pick up some supplies before his next run. Coffee mostly. Real coffee was hard to find this far from Earth, but there was a Terran shop somewhere on the 3rd level. He took the elevator up and wandered through the crowds. That was when he heard the crying. It came from near a fountain in the center of the marketplace. Minho pushed through a group of tall insect-like traders and saw a small figure sitting on the ground. It was a child, no more than 5 years old by human standards. The child had smooth blue skin that shimmered slightly under the station lights. Large eyes filled with tears looked up at the passing crowds, but no one stopped. Minho felt his heart squeeze. He had always been soft when it came to kids. His sister back on Earth had 3 children, and Minho loved them more than anything. Seeing a lost child, even an alien one, made him feel sick with worry. He walked over and knelt down beside the crying child. The little one looked at him with fear at first, then curiosity. Minho smiled gently. He had no idea if the child could understand him, but he tried anyway. "Hey there, little one," he said softly. "Are you lost?" The child sniffled and nodded. Tears rolled down those blue cheeks. Minho reached into his pocket and pulled out a clean cloth. He offered it to the child, who took it carefully and wiped at the tears. "Do you know where your parents are?" Minho asked. The child just stared at him, clearly not understanding. Minho looked around for any sign of someone searching for a lost child. The marketplace continued moving around them like a river flowing past a rock. He sat down cross-legged on the floor to be at eye level with the child. The little one seemed less scared now. Minho noticed the child wore clothes that looked handmade, with careful stitching and colorful patterns. "Someone loved this child very much. You are so cute," Minho said with a warm smile. "Who is your mother?" A voice spoke from behind him in perfect Korean. "It's me." Minho froze. He knew that voice. He had heard it 1,000 times in his memories, in his dreams. But it could not be real. He stood up slowly and turned around. She stood there just 3 meters away. Hyejin, his friend from the academy. His classmate who had disappeared 8 years ago when her deep space expedition vanished without a trace. The woman everyone had mourned. The friend Minho still thought about every time he flew through the dark between stars. But she looked different. Her skin had strange, faint patterns on it that glowed very softly. Her eyes seemed to catch the light in an odd way, almost like they reflected more than they should. She wore clothes that mixed human and alien styles, practical but beautiful. "Hyejin?" Minho whispered. His voice would not work properly. His brain could not accept what his eyes were seeing. She smiled, and it was exactly the smile he remembered. "Hello, Minho. It has been a long time." The child ran to her, wrapping small arms around her leg. She picked up the little one easily and held him against her hip. The child buried his face in her shoulder, still sniffling from crying. "This is not possible," Minho said. His hand started shaking. "You died. Your whole ship." Everyone said there was no way anyone survived. "I know what they said." Hyejin replied gently. "I am sorry you thought I was dead. I am sorry I could not contact anyone sooner." Minho's mind raced. Questions piled up so fast he could not grab just one. "How? Where were you?" "What happened to you?" Hyejin looked down at the child in her arms and then back at Minho. "That is a very long story. But first let me introduce you properly." She turned the child to face Minho. "This is Jiho, my son." The marketplace seemed to spin around Minho. Her son. She had a child. An alien child with blue skin and those large, beautiful eyes. No, not just an alien child. She had said "my son" in a way that meant something more. "Your son," Minho repeated slowly. You mean you adopted him or... I mean he is my son, Hyejin said clearly. Biologically. His father is Vel. I have been living on Valoria for the past 8 years. Minho had to sit down. He found a nearby bench and dropped onto it. Hyejin sat beside him, still holding Jiho. The child peeked at Minho with curiosity now instead of fear. Valoria, Minho said. I have never heard of it. Most people have not, Hyejin explained. It is in an uncharted system. My ship crashed there after going through an unstable wormhole. I was the only survivor. The Vel found me and saved my life. She spoke calmly as if describing a trip to the store. But Minho could see pain in her eyes when she mentioned the crash. She had lost her entire crew. Friends probably. People she had trained with and trusted. And you stayed there, Minho said. For 8 years. I had no choice at first, Hyejin told him. My ship was destroyed. The Vel did not have the technology to send messages across that distance. I was alone on a planet where no one spoke my language and nothing looked familiar. She looked down at Jiho with so much love that Minho felt his throat tighten. But then it became home. I learned their language. I learned their ways. And I met Terran, Jiho's father, Minho said. Hyejin nodded. Yes, he is a scientist. He helped me survive in those early days. We became friends first, then partners. The Vel have advanced genetic science. They made it possible for us to have Jiho. Minho looked at the little boy again. Jiho was watching him with intelligent eyes. The child seemed to understand they were talking about him. Minho managed a smile and Jiho smiled back shyly. This is incredible, Minho said. Everyone thought cross-species children were impossible. The genetic differences are too great. That is what I thought too, Hyejin agreed. But the Vel see genetics differently than we do. They understand harmony at a deeper level. It took time and careful work, but they made it possible. The marketplace continued around them, but Minho felt like he was in a bubble separate from everything else. His friend had returned from the dead. She had lived an entire life on a planet no one knew existed. She had fallen in love and had a child with an alien species. It was too much to process. Why are you here now? Minho asked. On this station? Hyejin took a deep breath. I finally convinced the Vel leadership to let me make contact with humanity. They are very protective of their isolation, but I argued that I needed to at least let people know I was alive, and I wanted Jiho to know his human heritage too. She reached over and squeezed Minho's hand. I am so glad you were the first person I ran into. When Jiho wandered off in the crowd, I was terrified. But then I heard your voice speaking to him so kindly, and I knew everything would be okay. Minho squeezed back. I am glad I found him. I am glad I found you. Jiho reached out a small hand toward Minho. The child said something in a language Minho did not understand. Hyejin laughed softly. He wants to know if you are his uncle, she translated. I told him about you before. About my friends from Earth. Minho felt tears in his eyes. He took Jiho's small hand very carefully. Yes, he said, looking at Hyejin. I would be honored to be his uncle. For a moment, everything felt right. But deep down, Minho knew this was just the beginning. Hyejin's return would change everything. Nothing would be simple from here on. They sat in a small cafe on the station's observation deck. Through the massive windows, stars stretched out in every direction. Jiho played with a toy at the next table, content now that he was with his mother again. Minho could not stop staring at Hyejin. Part of him still believed this was all a dream. Tell me everything, Minho said. Start from the beginning. Hyejin wrapped her hands around a cup of tea. Real tea, she had said with joy when she ordered it. The Vel did not have anything quite like it. She took a sip and began her story. The expedition was going well at first, she said. We were mapping a sector near the edge of known space. All standard procedure. Then our sensors picked up something strange. A gravitational anomaly. The captain wanted to investigate. Minho listened carefully. He remembered when the news had come that her ship was missing. The search had lasted for months, but they found nothing. No wreckage, no distress signals, nothing. We got too close, Hyejin continued. The anomaly was an unstable wormhole. It pulled us in before we could react. The ship was torn apart by the gravitational forces. I remember the alarms, people screaming, the hull breaking. Then I blacked out. She stopped and stared into her tea. Minho wanted to reach over and comfort her, but she seemed lost in the memory. When I woke up, I was in a strange place, she said quietly. It looked like a medical facility, but nothing was familiar. The equipment was organic, grown rather than built. The walls glowed with soft light, and standing over me was Terran. "What did you think when you first saw him?" Minho asked. Hyejin smiled slightly. "I thought I was dead and seeing an angel. He has this way of moving that seems almost like floating, very graceful. But then the pain hit and I knew I was alive. I had a broken arm, several broken ribs, and a head injury, but I was alive when everyone else had died." She told him about those first terrible weeks. She could not speak the Vel language. They could not speak any human language. They communicated through gestures and drawings. The Vel doctors worked hard to heal her injuries. Their medicine was far more advanced than anything humans had. Within a month she was physically recovered, but the emotional wounds took much longer. "I was alone," Hyejin said. "Completely alone in a way I had never experienced before. At least if I had crashed on an uninhabited planet, I would have had my memories and my culture, but everything around me was alien. The food, the sounds, the way light moved through their buildings, even the sky was the wrong color." Terran had stayed with her through it all. He was a genetic scientist, studying how different species adapted to their environments. He found Hyejin fascinating, not as a specimen, but as a person. He wanted to understand her, and slowly, as they learned to communicate, they became friends. "He taught me the Vel language," Hyejin explained. "It is partly spoken and partly expressed through those bioluminescent patterns on their skin. I could not do the light part at first, obviously, but Terran was patient. So patient." After 6 months, Hyejin could speak basic Vel. She learned that Valoria was a hidden world. The Vel were an ancient, advanced civilization that had chosen isolation thousands of years ago. They knew about the Galactic Council and the other species out there. They just did not want contact. They preferred peace and quiet development. "They could have sent me home," Hyejin said. "Eventually, they developed the technology to send long-range messages. But by then, a year had passed. Everyone thought I was dead, and I had started to build a life there." Minho leaned forward. "What made you stay, really?" Hyejin looked over at Jiho, who was making his toy fly through the air with sound effects. She smiled with so much love that Minho felt his chest tighten. "Terran," she said simply. "I fell in love with him. Not suddenly, not like in stories. It happened slowly, over months of conversations and shared experiences. He showed me his world with such joy. He wanted me to see the beauty in it. And eventually I did." She described Valoria to Minho. It was a planet of vast oceans and floating islands. The Vel built their cities in harmony with nature, growing structures from living plants and coral-like organisms. Technology and biology merged seamlessly. Everything glowed softly at night with bioluminescence. It sounded like a dream world. "We became partners," Hyejin said. "In the Vel culture, that means something deeper than marriage. It means choosing to grow together, to adapt to each other. And then I started wondering if we could have a child together." "Was that even possible?" Minho asked. "I mean, humans and Vel are completely different species." "That is what everyone said," Hyejin replied. But the Vel scientists were curious. They saw it as a challenge. They spent 2 years studying both our genetic codes, finding the harmonies between them. They had to make careful adjustments, guide the development in the early stages, but they did it. Jiho was born healthy and perfect. She called Jiho over. The little boy climbed into her lap and looked at Minho with bright, curious eyes. Up close, Minho could see both human and Vel features in him. His face shape was human, but his skin had that beautiful blue shimmer. His eyes were larger than a human child's, but smaller than pure Vel eyes. He was something entirely new. "Hello, Jiho," Minho said in Korean. "Do you speak Korean?" Jiho nodded shyly. "Amma teaches me," he said in careful, accented Korean. "And Appa teaches me Vel." "You are very smart," Minho told him. Jiho beamed with pride. Hyejin explained that Jiho was learning both languages and both cultures. She told him stories about Earth and showed him pictures of humans. Terran taught him about Vel history and philosophy. They wanted him to embrace both halves of his heritage. "Where is Terran now?" Minho asked. "On our ship," Hyejin said. "It is docked on the other side of the station." He wanted to come with me into the marketplace, but the Vel government asked him to stay hidden for now. They are not ready to reveal themselves to the galaxy. Even letting me make this contact was a huge step for them. She pulled out a small device and showed Minho a hologram. A tall, elegant figure appeared above the device. Terran had smooth blue skin, even more vibrant than Jiho's. His eyes were large and expressive. Patterns of light flickered gently across his skin like rippling water, He looked kind, Minho thought. Wise and kind. He looks like a good father, Minho said. He is the best father, Hijin replied, and the best partner I could ask for. I am very lucky. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Jiho played with Hijin's fingers, making them dance. Then Minho asked the question that had been bothering him. What happens now? You cannot just go back into hiding after making contact. People will want to know everything. The governments, the scientists, the media, they will never leave you alone. Hijin sighed. I know. That is why I contacted the Human Council before coming here. I sent them a message explaining everything. They know I am alive. They know about Jiho. They know about Valoria, though I did not give them coordinates. How did they react? Minho asked. They want me to come to Earth, Hijin said. They want to meet Jiho. They want to establish diplomatic relations with the Vel. They are being polite about it, but I can tell it is not really a request. It is more like a demand wrapped in nice words. Minho nodded slowly. He understood politics well enough to know that Hijin's situation was complicated. She was a human citizen who had been missing for 8 years. Now she had returned with proof of an advanced, hidden civilization and a hybrid child. Every government in the galaxy would want access to her. Are you going to Earth? He asked. I have to, Hijin said. I owe them that much, and I want Jiho to see where half of his family comes from. But I am scared, Minho. I am scared of what they will do. What if they try to take Jiho away? What if they want to study him like a science project? What if they demand access to Valoria and the Vel refuse? Her voice shook slightly. Minho reached across the table and took her hand. I will help you, he said firmly. Whatever you need. I will be there. Hijin squeezed his hand gratefully. I was hoping you would say that. I need someone I can trust, someone who knew me before all of this. Will you come with me to Earth? Will you help me navigate all the politics and questions? Of course, Minho said immediately. I was planning to head back to Earth soon anyway. We can travel together. Relief washed over Hyejin's face. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jiho tugged on his mother's sleeve. I am hungry, he announced in Korean. Hyejin laughed. Okay, let us get you some food. What do you want? Noodles, Jiho said excitedly. They ordered food and ate together. Minho taught Jiho a simple hand game that his nieces loved. The little boy laughed and tried to copy the movements. For a little while, they were just 3 people sharing a meal. Not a miracle returned from the dead. Not an impossible hybrid child. Not a harbinger of massive political changes. Just a family and a friend, eating noodles on a space station. But Minho knew this peace would not last. When they reached Earth, everything would change. The questions would start. The demands would come. And Hyejin's life would never be simple again. He looked at her across the table, laughing at something Jiho said. She had survived 8 years alone on an alien world. She had built a life and a family against impossible odds. If anyone could handle what was coming, it was her. And Minho would make sure she did not have to face it alone. News traveled fast in space. By the time Minho, Hyejin, and Jiho boarded Minho's cargo ship for the journey to Earth, the entire galaxy knew about them. Every news channel showed Hyejin's face. Every station broadcast debates about what her return meant. And everyone wanted to know more about the impossible child. Minho watched Jiho play in the cargo hold with some boxes Minho had arranged into a fortress. The boy seemed unaware of the attention focused on him. He was just a kid who liked building things and asking questions. Lots of questions. Uncle Minho, Jiho called out. Why is space black? Because there is nothing there to reflect light, Minho explained. But there are stars, Jiho pointed out. That is the light, Minho said. The stars make light and we see it. Jiho thought about this seriously. Can we go inside a star? No, it would be too hot. We would burn up. Even in a ship? Even in a ship. Jiho nodded and went back to building his fortress. Minho smiled. The kid was smart. Really smart. His questions were not just simple curiosity. He was trying to understand how everything worked. It reminded Minho of the best students at the academy. Hyejin came down from the cockpit. We just received another communication request, she said, sounding tired. That makes 47 since we left the station. Did you answer? Minho asked. No, I am only answering official council communications now. If I tried to respond to everyone, I would never sleep. She sat down on a crate and rubbed her eyes. This is exhausting. Minho understood. The pressure on her was enormous. Scientists wanted to study Jiho. Governments wanted to negotiate with Valoria. News agencies wanted exclusive interviews. Radical groups sent threats. Supporters sent messages of love. It was overwhelming. "We will be at Earth in 3 days," Minho said. "Once we get there and you talk to the council, things might calm down." Hyejin laughed without humor. "Or they will get much worse." She was probably right. Earth's government had already sent several messages outlining what they wanted. A full medical examination of Jiho to understand his hybrid biology. Complete information about Valoria's location and technology. A formal meeting with Vel leadership. The list went on and on. "How is Terran handling all this?" Minho asked. "Not well," Hyejin admitted. He is scared. The Vel have spent thousands of years avoiding galactic attention. Now suddenly everyone wants to find them. He trusts me, but he does not trust Earth's government, and honestly neither do I. That night, as Jiho slept in the small cabin Minho had set up for him, they received a communication from someone unexpected. The Galactic Council wanted to hold a hearing about Hyejin's case before she even reached Earth. "A hearing about what?" Hyejin demanded, reading the message. "I have not broken any laws," Minho read over her shoulder. The council claimed they needed to investigate whether Hyejin had violated the First Contact Protocol by integrating with an uncontacted civilization. The Vel were classified as uncontacted because they had never registered with the council. "This is ridiculous," Minho said. "You crashed there. You did not choose to make contact. The law does not care about that," Hyejin replied bitterly. "Some council members have been looking for an excuse to cause problems. They fear what human-Vel cooperation could mean." She showed Minho some of the messages she had been receiving privately. Several alien species had expressed concern about human adaptability. Humans were newer to the galactic community than most species. They were still considered somewhat unpredictable. The fact that a human had successfully integrated with an isolated, advanced species made some council members very nervous. They think if humans can connect with the Vel, they could potentially connect with any species, Hyejin explained. That changes the balance of power in the galaxy. So they want to stop it, Minho said. Or at least control it. Hyejin agreed. The hearing was scheduled for 2 days from now at Council Station Prime. It was somewhat on the way to Earth, so they could stop there without too much delay. Hyejin did not want to go, but refusing would make things worse. She sent a message accepting the council's invitation. "I need to contact Terran," she said. "He should testify remotely about the Vel's perspective." She went to set up a quantum communication link while Minho checked on Jiho. The boy was sleeping peacefully, his blue skin glowing very faintly in the dark. Minho felt a surge of protective anger. This child did nothing wrong. He was just born. Yet people were already treating him like a political problem instead of a person. The next day, they prepared for the hearing. Hyejin practiced her testimony with Minho. She needed to stay calm and factual. Any display of emotion could be used against her. They went over every possible question the council might ask. "What if they ask you to reveal Valoria's location?" Minho asked. "I will refuse," Hyejin said firmly. "The Vel trusted me to keep that secret. I will not betray them. Even if the council threatens legal action, even then." Minho admired her courage. She had already lost so much. Now she was risking her freedom to protect her adopted home. They arrived at Council Station Prime late at night. The station was massive, large enough to hold representatives from hundreds of species. Ships from every corner of the galaxy docked there. It was supposed to be neutral ground where all voices could be heard equally. A woman met them at the docking bay. She was tall and professional-looking, wearing the uniform of the Human Diplomatic Corps. "I am Sora," she said, bowing slightly. "I have been assigned as your liaison during the hearing. Do I need a liaison?" Hyejin asked carefully. The council thought it would be helpful. Sora replied smoothly. "I am here to make sure your rights are protected." Minho did not trust her immediately. Liaisons could be helpful, or they could be spies making sure you said the right things. But they had no choice but to work with her. Sora took them to private quarters where they could rest before the hearing. Jiho was excited by all the new sights. He pressed his face against the window, watching ships come and go. "So many different people," he said in wonder. "Are they all different species?" "Yes," Sora answered before Hyejin could. "There are over 300 registered species in the Galactic Council. You will see many of them tomorrow." Jiho looked at her curiously. "Are you human like Alma and Uncle Minho?" "Yes, I am." Sora said with a small smile. But you do not glow like Oma, Jiho observed. Sora glanced at Hyejin, noticing the faint, bioluminescent patterns on her skin for the first time. No, I do not glow. Your mother is special. Later, after Jiho went to bed, Sora spoke privately with Hyejin and Minho. I need to be honest with you, she said quietly. This hearing is not going to be easy. There are council members who want to make an example of you. Why? Hyejin asked. What did I do wrong? You challenged assumptions, Sora explained. For centuries, the council has believed that humans could not genetically bond with most other species. Our biology is too different, they said, but you proved them wrong. And some species are worried about what that means. She pulled up a holographic display showing council politics. Certain species held most of the power, and they liked it that way. Humans were starting to gain influence, which made the old powers nervous. If humans could form alliances and even families with previously unreachable species like the Vel, it could shift everything. There is also another group causing problems, Sora continued. They call themselves the Purity Coalition. They believe species should not mix. They see Jiho as an abomination. Minho felt sick. People are calling him that? Some people, yes, Sora said sadly. I am sorry. I know this is hard to hear, but you need to be prepared for what is coming. Hyejin stood up and walked to the window, her hands clenched into fists. I will not let anyone hurt my son. I understand, Sora said gently. And officially, I am here to remain neutral. But personally, I think what you did was brave. I think Jiho is a miracle, and I will do everything I can to help you within the bounds of my position. Minho studied her carefully. She seemed sincere. Maybe they had found an ally after all. The next morning, they entered the council chambers. The room was enormous, with seating arranged in a circle. Representatives from dozens of species watched as Hyejin walked to the center platform, with Jiho holding her hand. Minho and Sora sat in the observation area. The head counselor, a being that looked like a floating crystal formation, spoke in a voice that resonated through the room. We are here to discuss the case of Hyejin, human citizen, who made contact with an unregistered species known as the Vel. This hearing will determine if any laws were broken and what restrictions should be placed on future human-Vel interactions. Hyejin stood tall. Jiho stayed close to her side, his small hand gripping hers tightly. The chamber full of aliens stared at them. Some looked curious. Some looked hostile. But Hyejin did not flinch. She had faced worse than this. She had survived a shipwreck, learned an alien language, and built a family in exile. A room full of politicians did not scare her. Not yet, anyway. The questioning began. The council chamber felt cold despite the hundreds of beings gathered there. Hyejin stood on the central platform with Jiho beside her. The boy tried to be brave, but his small hand trembled in hers. She squeezed it gently to reassure him. The first counselor to speak was a tall being with gray scales and 4 eyes. State your name and occupation for the record, it demanded. My name is Hyejin. I was a navigation officer on the exploration vessel Horizon. Now I am a mother and a partner to a Vel scientist named Terran. You were declared dead 8 years ago, another counselor said. This one resembled a large bird with colorful feathers, yet you clearly survived. Why did you not attempt to contact human authorities sooner? Hyejin kept her voice steady. My ship was destroyed when we were pulled through an unstable wormhole. I was the only survivor. I crashed on Valoria with severe injuries. The Vel saved my life, but they did not have the technology to send long-range communications at that time. By the time they developed it, several years had passed. Several years, the Crystal Counselor echoed. Yet even after they developed this technology, you chose to remain there. Why? Because it had become my home, Hyejin said simply. I had built a life there. I had learned their language and culture, and I had fallen in love. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some counselors looked interested, others disapproving. One being that looked like a floating jellyfish spoke up. You claim to have formed a reproductive partnership with a Vel. This is biologically impossible according to all known genetic science. Apparently not, Hyejin replied. The Vel have a much deeper understanding of genetics than the Council realizes. They found harmony between our genetic codes and made it possible for us to have a child together. She felt Jiho press closer to her leg. She looked down and saw fear in his eyes. All these strangers staring at him. talking about him like he was an experiment rather than a person. Her protective instincts flared. "My son is not a theory or a political problem," she said loudly. "He is a child. A living being who deserves respect and dignity like anyone else in this chamber." The bird-like counselor leaned forward. "No one is questioning your son's dignity, but you must understand our concern. The Vel are an unknown species. We have no records of them, no treaties with them, no understanding of their capabilities or intentions. Yet you have bound yourself to them and produced offspring. This creates complications." "What kind of complications?" Hijin demanded. The crystal counselor answered. "Legal, political, and biological. Under council law, citizens of member species cannot make unauthorized contact with unregistered civilizations. The First Contact Protocol exists to protect both parties and ensure peaceful integration into the galactic community." "I did not choose to crash on their planet," Hijin shot back. "The protocol is meant to prevent deliberate interference. My situation was survival, not interference." "Nevertheless," the gray-scaled counselor said, "you chose to remain there and integrate fully into their society. That goes beyond simple survival. You also failed to report their existence to the council for 8 years." Minho watched from the observation area, his hands clenched in anger. They were twisting everything to make Hyejin look guilty. Beside him, Sora took notes with a neutral expression, but he could see tension in her shoulders. Hyejin took a deep breath and continued. "I reported the Vel's existence as soon as I felt it was safe to do so. The Vel are a peaceful isolationist species. They have no desire to join the council or interact with the greater galaxy. I respected their wishes while I lived among them. Yet you are here now," the bird-like counselor observed. "If they are so isolationist, why did they allow you to leave and make contact?" "Because I convinced them that I needed to reconnect with my own people," Hyejin explained. "And because I wanted my son to know both sides of his heritage. They agreed reluctantly to let me come forward, but they still do not want full contact with the council." The crystal counselor's surface shimmered. "That is not acceptable. If the Vel possess advanced genetic technology capable of creating cross-species hybrids, the council must assess their capabilities and intentions. We cannot allow an unknown advanced species to remain hidden. They have remained hidden for thousands of years," Hyejin said. "They pose no threat to anyone. All they want is to be left alone." "That is not for you to decide," the gray-scaled counselor stated coldly. Before Hyejin could respond, a hologram flickered to life beside her. Terran appeared, life-sized and detailed. His blue skin glowed softly with shifting patterns. His large eyes looked calmly at the assembled council. When he spoke, his voice was translated into the common language by the chamber's systems. "I am Terran, genetic scientist of Valoria and partner to Hyejin. I wish to address the council if I may." The crystal counselor hesitated, then agreed. "You may speak." Terran bowed respectfully. "Thank you. I understand the council's concerns, but I believe they are based on misunderstandings. The Vel are not a threat. We chose isolation not out of hostility, but out of philosophy. We believe each species should develop at its own pace without interference. Yet you interfered with Hyejin's natural development by altering her genetically," the bird-like counselor accused. "We can see bioluminescent patterns on her skin. You changed her." "Those are not alterations," Terran explained calmly. "They are adaptations. When Hyejin lived on Valoria for an extended period, her body naturally began adapting to our environment. The patterns you see are a harmless side effect of exposure to our biosphere. We did not change her DNA. Her body changed itself." This caused surprised murmurs throughout the chamber. Sora leaned forward, listening intently. Terran continued. "As for our genetic science, yes, we have advanced knowledge. But we use it only for healing and creating harmony. When Hyejin and I wanted a child together, our scientists spent 2 years carefully studying both our genetic codes. They found natural harmonies between them and gently guided the process. Nothing was forced. Everything was voluntary and done with love." Jiho looked up at the hologram of his father with a sad expression. He missed Terran. Hyejin could see it in his eyes. The jellyfish-like counselor spoke. "Even so, the existence of a human-Vel hybrid raises questions about the future. If such unions are possible, what prevents other species from seeking out the Vel for their genetic technology? This could lead to genetic chaos across the galaxy." "The Vel would refuse," Terran said firmly. "We do not sell our knowledge or services. What we did for Hyejin and myself was personal, done out of love between partners. We have no interest in becoming genetic engineers for the galaxy. But the knowledge exists, the gray-scaled counselor pressed. Knowledge can be stolen or traded. The council must have oversight. The council has no authority over Valoria, Terran replied, his voice taking on an edge. We are not members. We have chosen to remain separate. That is our right. The crystal counselor's surface flashed with colors that Minho did not understand. Perhaps. But your isolation is no longer absolute. Your partner is human. Your child is half human. That creates connections whether you wish them or not. Sora suddenly stood up in the observation area. Permission to speak, counselors? The crystal being looked annoyed but agreed. State your purpose. Sora walked to the platform beside Hyejin. I am Sora of the Human Diplomatic Corps. I have been studying the legal aspects of this case, and I believe the council is approaching this incorrectly. Explain, the bird-like counselor demanded. The first contact protocol applies to deliberate, planned contact with unregistered species, Sora said clearly. It does not apply to accidental encounters or survival situations. Hyejin crashed on Valoria through no choice of her own. She survived by adapting to their culture. Under Section 7 of the protocol, this is classified as emergency integration, which is legal and protected. The gray-scaled counselor glared at her. She remained there for 8 years. That is not emergency integration. Section 7 does not specify a time limit, Sora countered. It only requires that the contact was initially accidental, and that the individual made reasonable efforts to return when safely possible. Hyejin did both. She is not guilty of any violation. The chamber erupted in debate. Different counselors argued with each other in various languages. Minho felt a surge of hope. Sora had found a legal defense. Maybe this would work. Finally, the crystal counselor called for order. Even if we accept this interpretation, there remains the question of the child. What is his legal status? Is he human, Vel, or something else? Jiho had been silent throughout the entire hearing, but now he spoke up in a small, clear voice. May I say something? Everyone stopped and looked at the small boy with blue skin and large eyes. Hyejin started to tell him he did not have to, but Jiho gently pulled his hand free and stepped forward. I am Jiho, he said in careful but understandable common language. I am 5 years old. I speak Korean and Vel. I like to build things and ask questions. My mother is human and my father is Vel. He looked around at all the counselors. Am I bad because I exist? The chamber fell completely silent. The simple question from a child cut through all the political arguments and legal debates. Minho felt tears in his eyes. Hyejin covered her mouth with her hand. Jiho continued, his voice small but brave. I did not choose to be born. My parents wanted me. They loved me. I am just a child. Why is everyone angry, Abo? The next morning brought good news. The council ruled in Hyejin's favor. They accepted that her integration with the Vel was legal under emergency provisions. They also recognized Jiho's right to exist as a citizen of both human and Vel heritage. But they placed strict restrictions on future contact with Valoria until formal diplomatic relations could be established. It was not perfect, but it was a victory. Hyejin cried with relief. Minho celebrated with them over breakfast. Even Sora smiled, which Minho had learned was rare for her. But their relief did not last long. That afternoon, as they walked through the station market to buy supplies for the journey to Earth, Minho noticed something wrong. A group of beings followed them at a distance. They wore dark clothes with a symbol Minho did not recognize. A circle with a line through it. Hyejin, he said quietly, moving closer to her. We are being followed. She glanced back casually, then pulled Jiho closer to her side. I see them. Keep walking normally. We are in a public space. They would not dare do anything here. She was wrong. They had just passed a shop selling alien fruits when the group moved fast. 4 large beings rushed forward, surrounding them. One grabbed for Jiho. Hyejin pulled her son behind her, but another attacker shoved her hard. She stumbled backward. Minho reacted on instinct. His body remembered training from years ago before he became a cargo hauler. He had served in the Human Defense Force, had learned how to fight. He punched the nearest attacker in what he hoped was a vital spot. The being went down hard. Run! Minho shouted at Hyejin, but she could not run. 2 attackers blocked her path while the others went for Jiho. The boy screamed as rough hands grabbed him. Hyejin fought like a wild animal, clawing and kicking, but they were too strong. Then something changed in Hyejin. Her bioluminescent patterns flared bright, much brighter than normal. She moved with impossible speed, her body adapting the way it had learned to on Valoria. She broke free from one attacker and landed a kick that sent another flying backward. Minho fought beside her, protecting Jiho as best he could, but there were too many attackers. Station security was coming. He could hear their alarms, but they might not arrive in time. Then a blast of energy lit up the corridor. The attackers froze, their bodies held in place by some kind of stasis field. Minho looked up to see Terran standing there, no longer a hologram but physically present. Behind him were 3 other Vel, all carrying advanced weapons that glowed with soft blue light. "Do not touch my family," Terran said coldly. The Vel moved with coordinated precision. They secured all the attackers within seconds using technology the station security did not have. The stasis fields held the attackers perfectly still while allowing them to breathe. Station security arrived moments later, led by a gruff-looking man with scars on his face. "What happened here?" he demanded. "They tried to kidnap my son," Hyejin said, still holding Jiho tightly. The boy was crying into her shoulder. The security chief looked at the frozen attackers and then at the Vel with their advanced weapons. His expression was hard to read. "You are Vel," he said to Terran. "Yes, I am Terran. This is my partner and our son. These beings attempted to harm them. I am Chief Daewon," the security officer said. He looked at the attackers more closely. "They are wearing Purity Coalition symbols. Extremists. They have been causing problems all over the galaxy lately." He turned to Hyejin. "You are lucky your partner arrived when he did. How did you get here so fast?" Minho asked Terran. "I was already on the station," Terran explained. "I could not stay away knowing you were all in danger. I have been monitoring from a distance. When I saw the attack begin, I transported directly to your location." Chief Daewon's eyes narrowed. "You have personal transport technology? That is highly advanced." "Yes," Terran said simply. He was not going to explain Vel technology to strangers. The security team took the attackers into custody. Chief Daewon insisted that Hyejin, Jiho, Minho, and the Vel come to the security office to give statements. On the way, they passed crowds of people who stared at them. News of the attack was already spreading. At the security office, they learned disturbing information. The Purity Coalition had been planning the kidnapping for days. They had members all over the station, watching and waiting for the right moment. Their plan was to take Jiho to an unknown location where they could study him and prove that hybrids were dangerous. "They would have hurt him," Hyejin said, her voice shaking with anger and fear. "They would have treated my son like a laboratory animal." "Most likely," Chief Daewon agreed grimly. "The Purity Coalition sees all hybrid beings as threats to genetic purity. They are fanatics." Minho paced the small office, furious. "How many members do they have? How do we stop them?" "They operate in cells across the galaxy," Chief Daewon explained. "We arrest them when we can, but they keep recruiting. Many people fear the changes happening in the galaxy. Fear of mixing species, fear of losing cultural identity, fear of the unknown. The Coalition feeds on that fear." Sora arrived at the security office, having heard about the attack. She looked shaken. "Are you all right?" "Physically, yes," Hyejin said. "But they almost took Jiho if Terran had not arrived." She did not finish the sentence. She did not need to. Sora sat down heavily. "This is my fault. I should have arranged better security for you. I knew the Coalition was active, but I did not think they would attack so boldly." "It is not your fault," Terran said gently. "These beings chose violence. The responsibility is theirs alone." Chief Daewon pulled up files on his screen. "We caught 6 attackers today, but our intelligence suggests this cell has at least 20 members on the station. The rest will go into hiding now. We need to move you to a secure location immediately." "We can protect ourselves," Terran said. "Vel security technology is more than adequate." "I am sure it is," Daewon replied. "But this is my station, and I am responsible for everyone's safety. Please allow us to provide additional protection. Consider it both a security measure and an apology for failing to prevent the attack." After some discussion, they agreed to move to a secure wing of the station. Chief Daewon assigned guards to watch the corridors. The Vel set up their own security systems inside the quarters. Between human security and Vel technology, they should be safe. That night, Jiho had nightmares. He woke up crying, calling for his mother. Hyejin held him and sang a Vel lullaby until he fell back asleep. Minho watched from the doorway, his heart breaking for the little boy who had done nothing except exist. He is so young, Hyejin whispered. He should not have to deal with people hating him just for being born. No child should, Minho agreed. Taran stood by the window, watching the stars. This is what I feared, he said quietly. This is why the Vel chose isolation. The galaxy is not ready for peace between all species. Too many still cling to old fears and prejudices. But some are ready, Sora said. She had stayed with them for safety and moral support. The council ruled in your favor. Many people support you. The coalition is loud, but they are a minority. A violent minority, Taran pointed out. True, Sora admitted. But violence often comes from fear of losing power. The fact that they attacked you means they see you as a threat to their worldview. That means you are already changing things. Minho thought about her words. She was right. Hyejin and Jiho represented something new, something that challenged how the galaxy understood species boundaries. Of course there would be resistance, but there would also be people who saw hope instead of threat. The next morning they received surprising news. A statement had been released by several major human colonies expressing solidarity with Hyejin and Jiho. Scientists, politicians, and ordinary citizens spoke out against the Purity Coalition's violence. Many called for stronger anti-discrimination laws protecting hybrid individuals. Then came even bigger news. The Vel leadership sent a formal message to the Galactic Council. It was brief but powerful. Any harm done to Jiho or his family will be considered an attack on Valoria itself. We will respond accordingly. It was the first direct communication between the Vel and the Council. The fact that they broke their isolation to protect Jiho sent a clear message. The Vel might prefer peace, but they would fight to protect their own. Chief Daewin showed them the message with a low whistle. Your people do not mess around, he said to Taran. We protect family above all else, Taran replied. That is the foundation of Vel philosophy. Over the next few days, more information came out about the Purity Coalition. Investigators discovered that several council members had been secretly funding the group. Not directly, but through shell organizations and fake charities. These politicians feared human advancement and wanted to stop human-Vel cooperation. Sora worked tirelessly to expose these connections. She risked her career by going public with evidence of council corruption, but she believed it was the right thing to do. People deserve to know the truth, she said when Minho asked why she was taking such risks. The council is supposed to represent all species fairly. If some members are supporting extremist groups, that corruption needs to be exposed. Minho gained new respect for her. She was not just a bureaucrat following orders. 3 days after the attack, a Vel diplomatic ship arrived at Council Station Prime. It was the first time in recorded history that a Vel vessel had entered Council space. The ship itself was beautiful, grown rather than built, with organic curves and surfaces that shimmered with soft light. The Vel ambassador who emerged was named Ilara. She was tall and elegant, with skin that shifted through shades of blue and purple. Her eyes held ancient wisdom, and when she spoke, people listened. She requested an immediate emergency session with the full Galactic Council. The request could not be denied. Within hours, the council chambers filled with representatives from hundreds of species, all eager to hear what the mysterious Vel had to say. Hyejin, Taran, Jiho, Minho, and Sora were given seats of honor. Chief Daewin stood nearby with his security team, still protective after the recent attack. Ambassador Ilara stood in the center of the chamber and spoke in a clear musical voice. I am Ilara of Valoria. For thousands of years my people have chosen isolation. We watched the galaxy from a distance, studied its patterns and maintained our peace. But recent events have forced us to reconsider our position. She gestured toward Hyejin and her family. 8 years ago a human woman crashed on our world. We could have let her die. We could have kept her prisoner. Instead we welcomed her. We healed her. We taught her our ways, and one of our own fell in love with her. The chamber was completely silent. Every eye watched Ilara. The birth of Jiho was not planned by governments or councils, Ilara continued. It was the natural result of two people loving each other. Yet his existence has caused fear and violence. Extremists tried to kidnap a 5-year-old child. Council members secretly funded these extremists. all because they fear what Jiho represents, the possibility of true unity across species. She paused, letting her words sink in. The Vel leadership has debated long and hard about what to do. Some argued we should withdraw further into isolation, that the galaxy is too violent and too fearful to accept us. But others, including myself, argued something different. Ilara's patterns glowed brighter. We believe humanity is special, not because of technology or military power, but because of something more fundamental. Humans adapt. They change. They find ways to survive and thrive in any environment. When Hyejin crashed on Valoria, she did not give up and die. She learned, she grew. She became part of our world while never losing her human identity. Minho felt pride swell in his chest. Ilara was describing the very essence of what made humans strong. Therefore, Ilara announced, Valoria wishes to propose a formal alliance with humanity, not with the Galactic Council as a whole, but specifically with Earth and its colonies. Shock rippled through the chamber. Several counselors jumped to their feet, shouting objections. The Crystal Counselor called for order, its surface flashing with angry colors. This is highly irregular, the bird-like counselor protested. Species cannot form exclusive alliances outside of council oversight. It disrupts the balance of power. The Vel are not council members, Ilara replied calmly. We are not bound by council rules. We are free to ally with whomever we choose. And we choose humanity. What are the terms of this alliance? The Crystal Counselor demanded. Ilara outlined the proposal. The Vel would share certain technologies with humans, including advanced medical science and sustainable energy systems. They would establish an exchange program, allowing humans to study on Valoria and Vel to visit Earth. They would provide protection for any hybrid children born from human-Vel partnerships. In return, humans would respect Vel privacy and never reveal Valoria's exact location without permission. This is unprecedented, Sora whispered to Minho. If humanity accepts this, it will completely change our position in the galaxy. Will Earth accept? Minho asked. I honestly do not know, Sora admitted. There will be enormous pressure from both sides. Some will see it as an incredible opportunity. Others will fear it alienates us from the Council. As if reading their minds, the gray-scaled counselor spoke up. If humanity accepts this alliance, they must understand the consequences. Other council species may view this as a betrayal. Trade agreements could be affected. Diplomatic relations could suffer. Is that a threat? Hyejin asked, standing up. She had remained quiet until now, but she could not stay silent anymore. Are you threatening to punish humanity for accepting friendship with another species? We are stating facts, the bird-like counselor replied. Actions have consequences. So do inactions, Hyejin shot back. The council sat by while extremists planned to kidnap my son. Some council members even helped fund those extremists. Now you are angry because the Vel are offering protection and partnership? That says more about the council than it does about us. Her words struck hard. Several counselors shifted uncomfortably. Ilara smiled slightly, pleased with Hyejin's spirit. The Crystal Counselor's surface dimmed. The council must deliberate on how to respond to this situation. In the meantime, we recommend Earth carefully consider the Vel proposal before making any commitments. Earth has already been contacted, Ilara said.
They are reviewing the proposal now.
We expect an answer within days. The session ended in chaos. Some species were furious, others intrigued. The jellyfish-like counselor approached Ilara after the official meeting concluded. Why humans? It asked. We have species with far more advanced technology. We have species that have been in the galaxy far longer. What makes humans so special? Ilara considered the question carefully. Because when faced with the impossible, humans do not give up. When Hyejin was stranded and alone, she could have broken. Instead, she learned and adapted. She built a new life while honoring her old one. That is a rare quality. That is why we believe humanity has potential that many underestimate. Back in their secure quarters, Hyejin paced nervously. This is too much pressure. I never wanted to be the reason for a major galactic shift. I just wanted to raise my son in peace. I know, Terran said gently, pulling her into his arms. But we cannot control how others react to our existence. We can only control our own actions. What if Earth rejects the alliance? Hyejin worried. What if they decide the political cost is too high? Then we adapt, Terran replied. We always adapt. Jiho tugged on Minho's sleeve. Uncle Minho, are we in trouble again? Minho knelt down to the boy's level. No, you are not in trouble. The adults are just trying to figure out complicated things. But do not worry. Everything will be okay. Promise? Jiho asked. Minho hesitated, then nodded. Promise. Over the next 3 days, the galaxy held its breath waiting for Earth's response. News channels debated endlessly. Politicians gave speeches. Scientists analyzed the potential benefits of Vel technology. Military advisors worried about security implications. Minho watched it all with growing frustration. Everyone had an opinion about what humanity should do. But very few people seemed to care about what was actually right. They cared about power, about politics, about advantage, not about a little boy who just wanted his existence to be accepted. Sora worked behind the scenes, using her connections to gather information. She reported back to the group each evening. Earth's government is divided, she told them. About 40% support the alliance. They see it as a chance to advance humanity's position dramatically. Another 40% oppose it. They fear alienating other council species and losing trade relationships. The remaining 20% are undecided. So it could go either way, Yejin said. Yes, Sora confirmed. But there is something else you should know. Public opinion is strongly in favor of the alliance. Regular people, not politicians, are excited about the possibility. They see it as validation that humanity matters, that we are special. Public opinion does not always determine policy, Terran observed. No, Sora agreed. But it creates pressure that politicians cannot ignore forever. On the 4th day, Earth's answer came. The Human Unified Government accepted the Vel Alliance proposal with enthusiasm. They issued a statement calling it a new chapter in human history and proof that humanity's adaptability is our greatest strength. The Council reacted with mixed emotions. Some species expressed congratulations, others issued warnings about the dangers of exclusive alliances. A few openly hostile species threatened to reduce cooperation with humanity. But Earth did not back down. They announced that Ambassador Alara would visit Earth within the month to formalize the treaty. Hyejin, Terran, and Jiho were invited to attend as honored guests. We are going to Earth, Hyejin said, stunned. All of us. Is Earth pretty? Jiho asked excitedly. It is beautiful, Minho told him. Blue oceans, green forests, cities that touch the sky. You will love it. Terran looked nervous. I will be the first Vel to set foot on Earth. That is a significant responsibility. You will be fine, Hyejin assured him. Besides, you have me to help you navigate human culture. Just like I had you to help me navigate Vel culture. Chief Daewon came to say goodbye before they left the station. I am sorry your time here was so difficult, he said. But I am glad I met you all. You changed how I see things. Thank you for protecting us, Hyejin said, shaking his hand. It was my honor, Daewon replied. He looked at Jiho. You stay safe, little one. The galaxy needs more kids like you. Jiho hugged his leg. I will miss you. Earth appeared in the view screen like a jewel against the darkness of space. Blue and white swirls of clouds covered vast oceans. Green and brown continents stretched beneath. Jiho pressed his face against the window, his eyes wide with wonder. That is where Amma comes from? He asked in amazement. Yes, Hyejin said, emotion thick in her voice. She had not seen Earth in 8 years. It looked exactly as she remembered and yet somehow different, or maybe she was the one who had changed. Terran stood beside her, holding her hand. It is beautiful, he said softly. I can see why you missed it. The ship descended toward the main spaceport near Geneva, where the Human Unified Government headquarters stood. As they entered the atmosphere, Minho pointed out features to Jiho. Mountains, rivers, cities glowing with lights. The boy tried to take it all in at once, asking questions faster than anyone could answer. When they landed, a welcoming committee waited. Government officials, scientists, news media, and thousands of regular people crowded behind barriers, wanting to catch a glimpse of the impossible family and the first Vel to visit Earth. Sora had traveled ahead to coordinate everything. She met them at the ship's ramp, looking tired but pleased. Welcome to Earth. Are you ready for this? No, Hyejin admitted. But let us do it anyway. They walked down the ramp together. Cameras flashed. Crowds cheered. Jiho held both his parents' hands tightly, overwhelmed by all the attention. Minho walked beside them, a steady presence. The head of the Human Unified Government, an elderly woman named Chancellor Yunji, greeted them personally. Welcome home, Hyejin, and welcome to Earth, Terran and Jiho. This is a historic day for humanity. Over the next week, they participated in countless meetings, ceremonies, and interviews. Scientists wanted to study Vel biology and genetic science, though Terran carefully controlled what information he shared. Politicians wanted to discuss trade agreements and technological exchanges. News reporters wanted personal stories about life on Valoria and the journey that brought them together. Through it all, Jiho remained the center of attention. People were fascinated by him. Children especially loved him, seeing him as something magical rather than strange. Schools requested that he visit and talk about growing up between two cultures. Jiho handled it with surprising grace for a 5-year-old, though he often got tired and needed quiet time with his family. One evening, they visited a park in Geneva. It was closed to the public for security reasons, giving them rare privacy. Jiho ran through the grass laughing and chasing butterflies. Terran watched with joy, seeing Earth nature for the first time. These butterflies are different from Valoria's, he observed, but still beautiful in their own way. Everything is different but beautiful, Hyejin said. That is what I learned. We do not have to choose one world over another. We can love both. Minho sat on a bench nearby, watching them with contentment. Sora joined him, carrying 2 cups of coffee. Real Earth coffee, she said, handing him one. I thought you might appreciate it after all those weeks in space. Minho took a sip and sighed with pleasure. Perfect. Thank you. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching Jiho play. Then Sora spoke quietly. I have some news. The investigation into the Purity Coalition is complete. They arrested 43 members across multiple systems. 3 council members were forced to resign for their involvement in funding the group. Good, Minho said firmly. They deserved worse. The council is also passing new laws, Sora continued. Protection for hybrid individuals. Stronger anti-discrimination policies. Criminal penalties for attacks based on genetic heritage. It is not perfect, but it is a start. All because of one little boy, Minho mused. All because people stood up for what was right, Sora corrected. You, Hyejin, Terran, Chief Daewon, me, and thousands of others who refused to accept hatred. Jiho was the catalyst, but change required action. Minho nodded slowly. She was right. Change never happened on its own. It required people willing to fight for it, even when the fight was difficult and dangerous. The formal alliance ceremony took place 3 days later in the Great Assembly Hall of the Human Unified Government. Representatives from every human colony attended. Ambassador Alara arrived with a delegation of Vel diplomats, all elegant and glowing with bioluminescent patterns. Chancellor Yunji and Ambassador Alara signed the treaty together, while the galaxy watched via broadcast. The document established formal friendship between humanity and Valoria, outlined technology-sharing agreements, created the Human-Vel Exchange Initiative, and guaranteed protection for any hybrid children born from unions between the 2 species. When they finished signing, the hall erupted in applause. Humans and Vel embraced. History had been made. Hyejin stood with her family in the front row, tears streaming down her face. Terran held her close, his own eyes wet with emotion. Jiho clapped his hands excitedly, not fully understanding the significance but feeling the joy in the room. After the ceremony, a private reception was held for key participants. Minho found himself talking with Ambassador Alara. Thank you for believing in us, he said. For choosing humanity. Alara smiled gently. We chose correctly. The events of the past weeks proved that. When faced with fear and violence, humanity did not retreat into isolation. You stood up for what was right. You protected the vulnerable. You demanded justice. These are the qualities that will shape the galaxy's future. What happens now? Minho asked. With the alliance, I mean. Now comes the hard work, Alara replied. Building trust, sharing knowledge, learning from each other. The treaty is just the beginning. True partnership will take years to develop, but I believe it will be worth it. She looked across the room to where Jiho was showing human children how to make patterns with his bioluminescence. The kids were delighted, copying his movements and laughing. Look at them, Alara said softly. That is the future. A generation that grows up seeing differences as beautiful rather than threatening. If we can nurture that, everything changes. Minho watched the children play together and felt hope bloom in his chest. Maybe the galaxy could change. Maybe fear and hatred did not have to win. Later that evening, Hyejin found a moment alone with Minho on a balcony overlooking Geneva. The city lights stretched out below them like a sea of stars. I have been offered a position, Hyejin said, Earth's first ambassador to Valoria. I would represent humanity on the Vel homeworld, helping to coordinate the exchange program and facilitate cooperation. Will you take it? Minho asked. Yes, Hyejin said. It is what I am meant to do. I am the bridge between two worlds. I should use that position to help both sides understand each other. You will be amazing at it, Minho said sincerely. Hyejin smiled. And you have been offered a position too, Sora told me. Director of the Human Vel Exchange Initiative Transport Division. You would be responsible for safely moving students, researchers, and diplomats between Earth and Valoria. Minho had received the offer that morning. He had not given an answer yet. Being a cargo hauler was simple, comfortable, and safe. This new position would be complicated, demanding, and full of responsibility. I am considering it, he admitted. You should take it, Hyejin encouraged.
You are good at bringing people together.
You found me and Jiho in that marketplace. You helped us navigate all of this chaos. You can help others make connections too. When did you become so wise? Minho teased. I learned from the Vel, Hyejin said with a laugh, and from surviving the impossible. They stood together in comfortable silence, old friends who had been through so much. The city lights glowed below. Above, stars filled the sky, representing millions of worlds and billions of beings. The galaxy was vast and complicated, but it felt a little less lonely now. 3 months later, Minho piloted the first official human Vel exchange transport to Valoria. The ship carried 20 human students, 5 researchers, and 3 diplomats. They were nervous and excited, chattering about what they would see and learn. Hyejin met them at the Valoria spaceport with Terran and Jiho. The Vel had built a special facility just for receiving human visitors, designed to be comfortable for both species. Welcome to Valoria, Hyejin said to the arriving humans. I know everything seems strange right now. The sky is a different color. The air smells different. Even gravity feels slightly off. But give it time. Let yourself adapt. You will find beauty here that you never imagined. The students and researchers dispersed to their assigned hosts, Vel families who had volunteered to help humans learn their culture. Minho stayed for a few days, making sure everything ran smoothly. On his last evening, Hyejin's family hosted a dinner in his honor. They ate Vel cuisine, which Minho had learned to enjoy despite its unusual textures. Jiho, now 6 years old, told Minho all about his school and his friends, both Vel and the few human children who had moved to Valoria with their families. I am learning so much, Jiho said excitedly. Teacher Kira taught us about Earth history today. Did you know humans used to live in caves? A long time ago, yes, Minho confirmed with a smile. And Teacher Soren taught us about Vel genetic science, Jiho continued. He said that someday maybe there will be lots of hybrid children like me. Not just human and Vel, but all kinds of combinations. Would you like that? Minho asked.